The insurance industry is central to modern life. It's so ubiquitous that we often take it for granted in the way the world manages risks. Yet it's easy to forget that without insurance, people would not be able to buy cars or mortgage their homes. Insurance determines whether planes can fly, ships can sail, and doctors can practice medicine, to pick just a handful of many, many examples. There are also big changes taking place in the world of insurance. The increased prevalence of storms and floods, growing use of technology, aging populations, all of these are changing the way insurance works and ultimately what we pay for it. So this week on The Big View, we're going to delve into the world of insurance. It's what we do at Reuters Breaking Views. We tap our best sources around the world for fresh insights into the biggest questions in business, economics, and finance. I'm your host, Peter Thalassen. And to help us explore this topic, I'm delighted to say Mario Greco is coming onto the show. Since 2016, Mario has been the CEO of Zurich Insurance, which, as its name suggests, was founded in Switzerland more than a century and a half ago. It's now a big global group with more than 63,000 employees, serving 75 million customers in over 200 countries. It straddles both property and casualty and life insurance, and has a current market value of around $100 billion. Mario started his professional career in the Milan office of McKinsey & Company, the consultancy, and has worked for Allianz, Horizon, and Generali, as well as Zurich Insurance. And he joins me appropriately from Zurich. Mario Greco, welcome to The Big View.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you very much.
It's great to have you. I mean, there's so much that we could talk about in relation to your business and to the insurance industry. But I want to sort of start with, I think, a topic that is very, very top of mind for a lot of people at the moment, which is the increasing occurrence of natural catastrophes. We've seen multiple big hurricanes, floods, wildfires, earthquakes, or a lot of which so obviously affect your business and affect the industry at large. I mean, it seems like these events are becoming more common, and I wonder how your company and the broader industry are coping with that.
So we do have evidences. We see that these events are more common. The frequency is much higher than it used to be. And they're also happening in regions, in places where we did not used to see these events before. So it is becoming a global issue, which also means that lots of people are affected and lots of people, have pain for it. It's not just financial pain. It's just inconvenience or, really disruption of lives. What we think the approach must be is to work on prevention and mitigation of these events. A lot can be done. I mean, wildfires could be prevented. Wildfires can be mitigated. They require different measures than what we have done so far in many parts of the world, but they can be prevented and mitigated. And equally, the damages provoked by wind, by water, they can be prevented and mitigated when that happens. And it's important to do that because, frankly, we don't expect the frequency to come down in the future. And so this is what we think is the most important priority that we need to have.
So talk a bit about that prevention and mitigation, though. I mean, who is ultimately responsible for that? And where does a company like Zurich or the insurance industry, where do you sort of fit into that, do you think?
Yeah, it's an important question, and it's not. It doesn't have an easy answer. So there are things that individuals can do, and there are things also that the society, the governments have to do. So take prevention of wildfires. There are actions that all of us can do. and it's about fences. It's about not letting greens, trees be too near to the houses. But there are things also that governments have to do, and this is about water reservoir. If there is wildfire, for example, it's very difficult to fly planes. You need to do things from the ground. And so you need to prepare for the water to be on the ground, and you need to have the system to deliver the water against the fire on the ground. And this is not something that we can do ourselves, nor our individual customers can do. So it needs coordination. It needs this to be a priority of all of us. But it is doable. I mean, a lot can be prevented, and the same for other kind of natural catastrophes. I mean, even an earthquake can be mitigated if you build properly, as we have seen in some regions of the world which have been historically earthquake prone. They managed to absorb in the construction of the buildings many of the risks and consequences of even very strong earthquakes. We just need to think about it and do that. And I think this is the priority for us, but it must become also the priority for the governments, for the institutional stakeholders.
Because it does seem like one of the consequences of what's happened is that there is sort of a growing sort of gap, basically. I mean, it's becoming harder for people in some places to insure their properties against flooding or against hurricanes or something like that. We've seen insurers sort of withdrawing from certain sectors and from certain geographies. I mean, that is clearly that's happening. I mean, can you see that trend reversing again in some circumstances?
So, no, I think yes, we can reverse that trend, and it happens for a reason, and that is that if we're not able to charge prices that reflect the real riskiness of the buildings or the properties or the factories, then eventually, yes, we will think about walking away, because we will subsidize from our shareholders to the control prices, the control system that exists in that jurisdiction. But ensuring natural catastrophes, preventing natural catastrophes, mitigating natural catastrophes is our duty, is our job, is our competence. I will never shy away from that unless, there is an imposition on me that I have to do it at given prices and given conditions. That is something that sometimes becomes simply unbearable. We can't. I mean, the financial impact will be just too big. But even after the wildfires in California, we always kept our offices, our underwriting open. We continue to underwrite customers. We never walk away from that. We never shied away from this, as it should be. This is our job, and if we are let free to do it, and at the end of the day, the insurance prices convey a message, which is what is the riskiness of that. That message is important to be heard and to be considered for the future, because there are ways to reduce the cost of insurance, and those are the prevention and mitigation that I was talking before. If we can take actions, we're the happiest people. Look, I mean, paying claims is a bad job, because if you suffer the claim, you suffered something that no amount of money can reimburse you for. You suffered something that fundamentally unbalanced your life. You had a loss. Any claim for a customer, whatever that is a loss. And yes, I mean, we should give quickly the proper financial consideration for that, but it will never be enough. So the real job that we have to do is to avoid that claim is gonna hit you. And with that, I mean, I will say that we can cover with natural catastrophes everywhere in the world if we're let free to apply prevention, mitigation, and then fair prices to the risks.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. That's very interesting. That idea about the sort of the insurance rates containing a signal. I mean, I want to talk a bit more broadly about particularly about climate change, because I mean, what we've been talking about is the sort of the direct consequences of we think of sort of what might be happening in terms of the climate. There's also been a lot of discussion about the role that the big financial institutions, including big insurance companies, should be playing in terms of sort of combating global warming more broadly. There's been, there were huge efforts to create these big alliances of financial companies who would try to sort of adapt their policies and adapt their investment strategies and stuff to try and push the world in a certain direction. I mean, those alliances seem to be mostly sort of unraveling now. How do you think about Zurich's sort of role and responsibility from that perspective?
Yeah, to be honest, from the beginning, I never liked alliances, and I'm not a supporter of these kind of movements. I very much believe in individual responsibility or in companies' responsibility. So catastrophes are a problem for our customers, and we want to help support customers not to suffer the consequences of the catastrophes. And I don't need alliances to do that. Now, the thing also that I cannot do is I cannot solve global warming myself, and insurance companies cannot do. This is a bigger issue. I can do my kind of limited job, which is helping my customers going through this possibly without bad consequences of them.
Mm-hmm.
But to impact, the temperatures of this planet is it's a much bigger issue than any insurance company or any alliance of insurance companies. And as we know, it requires government decisions. It requires citizens' decisions, which go well beyond even my duties. I don't think I have a right, and definitely I don't have a duty to tell people what they have to do. What I feel a duty for is to help people doing what they want to do in the possibly safest way for them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we have been doing, working with the customers, saying, what do you need? What do you want to do? You want to live your life here in this place, which is relatively risky? Okay, we'll tell you in which ways you can make this place less risky for you. Because if something happens, yeah, we're going to give you money, but you're never going to restore what you lost if something happened. Not even the money is sufficient for that. You have an emotional loss that it cannot be paid back. And so this is how I interpret our duties, helping the customers continuing to live their life unaffected and possibly quietly, even with the weather getting worse.
Do you think, just going back, I'm going to take your point about the sort of you might be uncomfortable with sort of broader alliances, but is there, do you think there's anything that a company like Zurich can do in terms of, you're obviously managing large kind of investment portfolios. How do you think about what policies you should be applying there in terms of, I don't know, will you finance new coal mines or power stations or those kinds of things? Are there any sort of practical steps you can take there that would have some impact, do you think?
I don't think that anything we can do can have an impact, a final impact on global warming. However, I think we have a duty to do the things that we can stand for, before our customers, in front of our children, in front of the next generation, and we can also defend with our shareholders, right? So some of the things you mentioned, so we've never been very much into mining, and the reason is mining is or has been for us a very tough insurance business, very difficult to make money out of it, and so we opted out of mining because it wasn't profitable for us. And I don't think I have to apologize, but then it turned out to be the right thing to do also for other reasons. But we frankly did it because it was unprofitable. We're aware that we need energy. We need more energy than ever before.
Mhm.
And everything we're doing these days requires more energy than yesterday. And so we're aware that the world has to find a supply of energy in excess of what existed. And it's our duty to help on that. But energy can be produced in many different ways. And there are ways to produce energy today which are relatively good for the planet. And by the way, they're also profitable for an insurance company. So, for example, 10 years ago, we had no competence and no exposure to renewables. Today, we're probably one of the biggest world insurers for renewables.
Mm-hmm.
We hired competences. We developed center competences around the world. We started serving customers, and now we have a big competence center for renewables. These are the things that we can do. And of course, if we do that, and maybe also we act as investors, we facilitate the development and availability of energy for the needs of people, for the needs of customers. I don't think, refusing to do things is not a great solution. You have to act positively and support and develop the things that work, the things that can help. We're not going to go that far by denying whatever the customer's needs or by refusing to insure. That's never a good solution.
And I must also just ask you, because we were just talking about this before we started the recording. Just on a very, very micro level, you have quite dramatically reduced your sort of travel, travel commitments or travel budgets. You just talk a bit about kind of what you've done there?
Yeah, we did that, especially after COVID, because COVID gave us a tremendous lesson of what is indispensable, needed, and what was just an option. And over a year and a half, 2 years almost of lockdown, we figured out ways in which we can stay in touch with each other through videos, through technology. Our technology evolved from day one. When I remember, I started panicking, saying, how am I going to get in touch with my colleagues around the world? How do I know if they are fine or not? And how do we communicate with each other? Then through COVID, we developed that, and we understood that we can be in very good touch by just using technology, videos, by connecting with the others. Now, there are things, however, that we understood during COVID that are necessary to do in person. If I want to get the trust of a customer, I have to sit in front of that customer. If I want to assess a new opportunity, a new development, maybe an acquisition, I need to go and touch. I need to see. I need to show myself there, and I need again to gain reciprocal trust on myself. So we continue to travel today for the things that we believe need physical presence. But we have really aggressively reduced the non-necessary travels, especially the internal ones. And we do much less than before internal meetings around the world. We tend to travel for customers, for business, for development, for regulators, to meet stakeholders. But we very seldom travel just for meeting colleagues. that's not the reason to do that. And there are lots of benefits to that. This is beneficial to the health of the people. It's beneficial to their families. It's also more socially acceptable. I mean, we are big companies. Everybody in our organization, in our industry, is privileged. I mean, is treated much better than the average person in the street. And those people can see traveling as an additional benefit. So if it is needed, if it is something that will return in one way or another to our shareholder, then it's a duty to do it, and we do it, and we're not shy of doing that. But everything else has been eliminated or cut to the bones.
So how has that affected you? Because my sense would be that for most executives that I talk to, I think, obviously during the pandemic, they completely stopped. And then I think at the beginning, people talked about, well, what would be the appropriate level of travel afterwards. But I think my sense would be that most people are traveling as much now as they were before the pandemic. But it sounds like for you, that's quite dramatically different.
It is. It is very different. We landed at almost 1/3 of what we did before pandemic, and we still run the organization well. We still grow the customers, so we still meet the intermediaries, the distributors. We still participate to all the political events that we need to participate. It is still very possible, and that tells you a lot about how much non-needed events or numbers were in the numbers that we ran before.
Now, let's talk a bit about technology. I mean, there's many different aspects of technology, obviously, in insurance. Maybe just to start, how have you, in terms of, you've been running Zurich for coming up to 10 years now. I mean, how's the application of technology in your business sort of changed or helped you kind of be more effective as an insurance company? Where do you really see the benefits?
The differential benefit for me is it is the connectivity with the customers. When I started working in insurance company did not even have knowledge, visibility of who the customer was. I still remember the years when the insurance databases were based on just policy information, policy numbers, right? And then I remember when we started going from policy numbers to individuals. And then after that, we moved into customer really profiling, customer information. I mean, who is this person and what do they want from us? But then I think where technology really helped us was in making ourselves available, right? In making ourselves available means that a customer doesn't have to think about how do I have an issue, how do I report this issue to the insurance company. They can video with us, they can call us, they can send us we have apps where they can hook up and talk to us, and then they get support immediate. So we can be online with the customers, helping them. That's a complete transformation of the relationship. And again, it means for us that our job is not to just to reimburse customers of damages. Our job is to help them making their life, easier for them and seamless for them. And technology allows us to do it. Just connect with us, call us, and we will guide you through. We will do whatever you need from us. It's a revelation for us because we started figuring out, okay, I mean, this customer is really a human being, and this is what, is in pain, is anxious, is upset, is disappointed. Okay, what can I do for that? How can I fix it? And we started monitoring all this. And one of the most important KPIs for us is customer satisfaction. And this is where really technology helps us. Now, artificial intelligence is a step forward because artificial intelligence allows us to give seriously 24 hours of coverage to the customers, which, until today was hard to do, because of course in the middle of the night you don't have many people responding to needs and requests to be prepared to answer customers' needs. But artificial intelligence can do that, and can do that in ways that the customers can really be pleased by that. So for me, the biggest development of technology over the past years, of the many things that technology has done, has been to really create connectivity with the customers and facilitate serving the customer needs with that.
And just on the artificial intelligence point, it's always interesting in these conversations to see when someone mentions artificial intelligence for the first time. So I think we managed to talk for a bit without bringing up AI. So, but just, I mean, there's obviously a huge amount of discussion about this, lots of investment. It just, in terms of actual sort of practical applications, you talked about, interacting with your customers. Are there specific things you can point to that you're doing already that are already having a measurable impact or a benefit?
Yeah, there are simple things which, in their simplicity, help the customers a lot. For example, in a number of countries, we have immediate response system with the face of a computer, which actually is the face of a human, and with the voice of a human, but actually it's a computer behind, and we qualify all this to the customers, where the customer can give us any kind of question and he gets an immediate response. It could be from, I don't know how to change, the address on my policy, on my coverage, to what am I supposed to do with this? Or why is the price increase so significant? I'm not happy with that. And you give immediate answers to it. That's a big development. It's, you're available, you're accessible, and you respond right away. We have used artificial intelligence to check and verify the consistency of multinational contracts. When we serve companies around the world, they have a coverage and contracts in many languages, under many jurisdictions, and they want them to be aligned, consistent, standardized. Yeah. If you just rely on humans, this is a hell of a work, because many times you find yourself, staring at 150 pages contract in 5, 6, if not 10 different languages. How long does it take to control them, and how many mistakes we humans make in doing that? Using artificial intelligence, you get much faster, and you're pretty sure that there are no mistakes in that.
Yeah.
And these are just very simple things to do. A lot of the damages today that we pay when there are natural catastrophes are assessed by using either drones or by using, flying objects who visualize the damages and send information to a computer who makes an immediate estimate. And sometimes we can tell the customers what happened there, because sometimes when there are these catastrophes, you cannot even access the zones. No. If they are flooded, or if there is a fire there, you can't access the areas, maybe for weeks, if not months. Now we do that with artificial intelligence. That's very helpful for the customers, for ourselves, and it speeds up everything. We don't have to wait weeks and months. We can immediately say, okay, this is what we see so far, so we immediately send you this amount of money, and then we will discuss later if there is more that we haven't seen yet. These are very simple things, but they matter for people, and we're very glad that they matter. Yeah. Then there are more, less visible use of artificial intelligence. For example, on data. When COVID hit everyone, one of the first questions that came was, what's going to be the financial impact on COVID on yourself? All right, very difficult question to address unless you have functioning artificial intelligence system that can analyze and scan all your data, all your coverages, and assess and estimate that. This is what we did, and in March 2020, we gave a public answer to markets, to investors, to everybody, and that number turned out to be the good one. I mean, we never changed it after. And that's more internal. It's not for the benefit of the customers, but it gives certainties to investors, to shareholders, and that's also very important. So there are many, many ways in which this is transformative.
Yeah. I'm interested in just sort of conceptually, as a consumer of insurance, I would say my sense is that over the years, the sort of the kind of what I get offered is much, much more precise and much more tailored to me, right? And in a good way and a bad way, right? I mean, it could be, oh, well, you live in that particular postcode and therefore, and there's lots of motorcycle theft in that postcode. Therefore, we're going to make it quite hard for you to insure your motorcycle in that postcode or something like that. But also, obviously, other types of insurance are more tailored. I just wonder, as you get more and more data about people, and you can be more and more precise about what their personal risks are, does that somehow undermine the concept of insurance? That idea of we're pooling risks and everybody, 2 people out of 100 will have a car accident. That's okay. But if you can just zoom in on the 98 people who aren't going to have a car accident and exclude the 2 people, then does the whole concept of insurance then change a bit?
Look, it's a great question, and it's a fundamental point. So let me try to argue like this. There is one thing that insurance can continue doing, and this is sharing the consequence of unexpected random events. So you insure your house against an earthquake. The earthquake is something that it's not predictable, and it's the role of insurance company to bear on our capital, on our balance sheets, the possible impact that this will have and reimburse you of any damage you're going to have. But when it comes to a clear data-driven assessment of a given risk, so not an unpredictable one, but a very predictable one, if we don't price correctly that, we will tax the good risks for the benefits of the bad risks. Now, the problem with doing this, to me, is twice. First of all, nobody has appointed us as tax decision makers, right? And we don't want to be, by the way. The second point of that is that the good risks are the majority and the bad risks are a minority, right? So why should we tax all the good risks for the benefit of few bad risks? That's not our role. What that means in practice is, if I have a house on the bank of the river and you have a house on the top of a hill, right? You shouldn't pay for me. That's unfair, right? I mean, I should be asked. In the past, we asked you to pay for myself. That was not fair. That was ignorance. Okay, we couldn't do any better. But when we started understanding that you were on the top of a hill and you will never get flooded, and on that hill there is never wind, and this is not an earthquake zone, your insurance deserves to be very cheap. And if my house is on the bank of the river, I should know through even, with the confirmation of insurance prices, that I'm running a very high risk of getting underwater. And I think it's fair that we do that. And it wouldn't be fair to do differently, right? Because we will be taxing you. And that's not my job to tax you. My job is to give you the correct assessment of what and your risk. That's the other problem. If I will have you paying more than you will assess yourself, you will not like what I'm doing. Right? Now, I'm aware that by doing this, we progressively create an affordability issue. Because your house on the bank of the river will be incredibly expensive. But the problem is, your house on the bank of the river is extremely risky for yourself, your family, and for the society. And so I think we're standing up to our duties and our commitments to the customers by doing this. And again, the great majority of the people and the customers we have are low risks, and they deserve to have a cheap insurance.
Yeah.
They don't have to pay for the bad risks.
I want to ask you one specific thing that's come up quite a bit recently, which is this question of cyber insurance, particularly companies insuring themselves against cyber attacks. You said that basically the large scale attacks, attacks by a sort of, I guess, by sort of state actors are uninsurable. But there's also there seems to be a more specific problem. We just had a recent example in the UK of Jaguar Land Rover, which was hit by a cyber attack. Appears not to have had insurance and then has now received guarantees from the UK government. I just wonder, how are you thinking about those risks and from an insurance perspective?
Yeah. So we are one of the biggest cyber insurers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to insure individuals, small and medium enterprises, mid-market companies. We are very much afraid of insuring military targets, insuring infrastructures,
Mm-hmm.
Insuring assets which do not respond to private riskiness, because that is a logic that we cannot control. That's more a defense issue. It's a government priority to defend the electricity grid. It's a government priority to defend the functioning of the airports against hostile attacks. It's a government priority to defend the hospitals' functionalities against hostile attacks. Insurance companies cannot do that. We can protect individuals, we can protect SMEs, but we cannot protect these huge targets. Cyber has become a weapon, or it is also a weapon. It's many different things. Among them, it's a weapon. And when is about dealing with the consequence of these weapons being used against the country, against some assets of the countries, they cannot rely on insurance to solve that, because this is simply too big and too unmanageable for us.
But there is a big grey area, isn't there? I mean, I can see that there may well be situations where you say, well, that's a cyber attack that was brought about by it's almost an act of war or something like that. But obviously, I think we're learning every day at the moment in Europe that there is a big grey area where there are things that, was that done by a government or was it done by a sort of malicious actor, and how could we really tell the difference? So I wonder, how do you approach that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we have been working over the past years to have cyber only under cyber policies, which means that we know what we're doing there, right? So we offered you a policy. We know your riskiness, because in order for you to have a policy from us, we assess what is the risk of that, and also we understand what exposure we have with that. So under these circumstances, we would be happy to insure you because we know what we're doing, right? What we will never do anymore is to have cyber hidden or cyber undefined as an exposure for us. We need to know how much of our capital is at risk. And we need to be confident that this is something that we can afford. About the origin of the attacks, honestly, very often you can track it. You know who is behind, and often you recognize. It doesn't mean you can catch that person or that organization, but often you see who is behind, and you have an educated guess on what's the purpose of that attack. Is that for money? Is that random or is that a military attack? Having said that, I mean, we have helped cover the customers whenever they got in trouble. No matter what, we want to help and support the customers when they are in these situations.
Yeah. We've covered a lot of ground, and these are all big questions, which obviously we could talk about for much longer. But I must just maybe just to sort of wrap up, one thing I do want to get your views on is just what it's like to run a big global company at this moment in the world when you got the US is introducing tariffs, and kind of there's a sort of a general sense of a fragmentation, of a changing order. I just wonder, sort of, how do you think about the sort of the future of a global company like Zurich in that world, and how do you navigate it on a day-to-day basis?
So first of all, as I think every manager is, I am necessarily born optimistic, and I see opportunities everywhere. Of course, as my job is, I also see risks, and there are plenty of them around. But my nature is to see the opportunities among the risks and organize to possibly chase these opportunities successfully for my organization, my colleagues, and the customers that we have. Insurance is naturally a business that requires size and big numbers, because the bigger you are, the more you can absorb and balance the elevated risks that are around the world. So the challenge these days is to understand where growth is going to be, what kind of new risks our customers will have, and what technology, what services do we need to develop in order to serve these customers. And frankly, it's fascinating. I completely appreciate that there is a lot of uncertainty these days, and I completely appreciate that many of us, maybe myself included, will live with anxiety about the future. But it's also time when a lot of new things become possible, and a lot of new opportunities materialize, and this is exciting. And this is something where we can prove ourselves and run faster to grab these opportunities. So I can, I like to see the positives in everything, and there are many positives these days.
So just leave us on an optimistic note then. What would be a positive or an opportunity that you see at the moment?
Take the complication of the supply chain repositioning around the world. That's a big opportunity to work with the customers, help them repositioning their supply chains, factories elsewhere, and find productive solutions for them. Europe is today recreating or developing infrastructures, is investing in defense and in protection of its border. These are opportunities for us to work with customers and to do something which is eventually appreciated by the customers. Our mobility is changing fast because we're changing the way we live in the cities. We're changing also the requirements we have as families. We live in a different way than before. That's a great opportunity for us. We can quickly adapt to it and provide solutions. Life, after COVID, I think we all became much more aware that there are risks for us as humans. And if we're not careful, they can come back again. That's a great opportunity for us to work on wellness, to work on protection of lifestyles, and to work also on the integrity of our immune system and critical health issues. I see many opportunities for us to be more useful, to be on the side of the customers, and also that's a good way for us to earn our days. If I have a satisfied customers, I know why I've been at office for that many hours. Without that, I would challenge myself.
Okay. Well, Mario, thank you for giving us your time. Really appreciate it. This was a fascinating discussion, and yes, I think there are many things here that we will doubtless come back to in the future. But for now, thanks very much.
Thank you very much to you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in. This podcast was produced by Oliver Tasich in London. You can listen to a new episode of The Big View every Tuesday on the Reuters app or your favourite platform. And don't forget to tune into our sister podcast, Viewsroom, every Thursday, as well as the other great podcasts from the Reuters team. If you liked what you heard, please follow The Big View and let us know what you thought. You can also get in touch by emailing us at breakingviews-podcasts@tr.com. That's breakingviews-podcasts@tr.com. And don't forget to check out our views on the biggest stories in business and finance every day on breakingviews.com and reuters.com.